Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Well, hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life, again with your host, me, Matt DiFrancesco. And so, I'm really excited to talk about this because I've had a couple of shop owners that have come to me. Most recently, there was one who was looking at selling his shop to his key employees. And it was interesting because, we were talking about some different things. I explained my process, how I helped to do that. I talked about how I helped to build a team to, be able to help execute the plan so that he can get the outcome that he wants. And then he kind of went dark on me. And it was funny. So I was following up. And finally he got back to me. He goes, we decided I'm going to just try to find some people locally to me. And I call those what's called the DIY or do-it-yourself exit plans. And in my experience, they never work. I had another guy who actually was referred to me by an M&A person who then came to me, was talking about doing internal. He was actually looking at ESOP, but he wasn't going to qualify for an ESOP. So we were looking at putting, whether phantom stock or SARS program, something like that. And then again, didn't hear from him, came back, said, "Oh, I got a buyer." And I got him to an attorney, and we realized as the attorney was talking to him, it made a lot of mistakes. All right. Didn't negotiate his lease properly. Wasn't getting the ideal allocations to make sure he was minimizing tax liability. And this is the danger of trying to do this yourself. I'll tell you why. And I have 7 points that I really want to talk about on why DIY plays fail. And the first one is just a lack of expertise. And most business owners have no idea of how any of these transitions work. And it's especially true with shop owners because most shop owners I find, again, are car guys. They've built the shop, they've built successful businesses, but they don't understand the nuances of trying to negotiate a transfer of the business or a succession of it. And there's a lot of legal complexities and especially tax complexities that are involved in that. So that's probably the first reason why these plans fail. The second one, and this is a big one, is their emotional involvement in the business. I was talking in a recent podcast about a shop owner I met, had sold his shop and was just kind of lost out there because he had never developed a post-sale identity. And because, again, this is something that's your baby. This shop is your baby. You've built this from the ground up. I actually have clients of mine who are doing, family transfers of the business, and they become difficult because the kids are always like, well, mom and dad won't listen to me. And the mom and dad are like, they're not following what we're teaching them to do. And I tell the kids, actually, you've got to understand that this business is as much of a child to them as you are. They've birthed this thing. They've helped it to grow. They've nurtured it. And so they become emotionally involved in it. And again, without proper planning, and especially, if they're looking at third-party sale, that can be a very emotional event because it's very stressful. Most people think, oh, I'm just going to go sell to a consolidator or to a private equity firm or to another shop, and I'm going to be done with it. It's a lot more complicated than that. And it's a full-time job, basically, as you go through that. And so, again, this causes them stress, not only because of the work that's involved, but now all of a sudden, I'm leaving my baby. Is that right? I mean, if any of you have kids that have gone off on their own, whether it's to go to college or have moved to another area, imagine the stress that you feel when that happens. It's a similar thing with your business. So the emotional involvement can cause you to, make rash, poor decisions and also have unrealistic expectations. One of I think the big things is that most shop owners have no idea what the value of their business is. They hear stuff, but they don't really know what the value of that business is. And again, this can all cause you to make poor decisions. The third reason why they fail is, again, with poor financial and operational preparation. They really have not prepared the shop to get the type of exit that they want. It's interesting. I've had shops that have come to me, we've run valuations, and we looked at like equal revenue. Okay. And one shop is worth probably maybe 30 to 50% more than the other one. Why is that? Again, They've got good records. The bookkeeping is clean. They have efficient operations. The owner, it's not as reliant on the owner. And so again, just because you're doing a certain revenue number means nothing to your valuation. I think that's a really important point. I got a guy I'm working with right now who basically is like, he's doing great revenue. But when you look at his books, I had a consultant come in who was looking at his financials, had 58% leakage in his paint department. That's huge. Okay. And again, that's not going to show the value, but he had no clue. He could tell you what he did in revenue, but he had no idea about the deeper dive into the numbers. So you're not really prepared. And like I said, if a shop is very dependent on the owner, then again, that actually decreases the value of that shop. So the fourth point, again, is a limited market understanding. Recently I did a presentation at the Northeast Conference with Laura Gay, who's a very prominent M&A person in the industry. And she basically was kind of walking through the attendees an understanding on how the market works. And I think a lot of them were very surprised, not understanding who are the right buyers for that shop. What are the market conditions? One of the things, especially if you're looking at third-party sales, is a lot of these consolidators use what's called a hub and spoke. So let's say, for example, they're looking at the Baltimore area. So they'll start in Baltimore and then they'll start building out from there and start acquiring shops there. But after they've got that market saturated, they're done and they're moving on somewhere else. And so, that's something that most shops don't understand. I mean, they see, hey, my buddy sold 3 years ago to XYZ consolidator. And why can't I do that? Market conditions have changed. And so it's really important to get help. And it's kind of like what I was telling you about the guy who was going back and forth. He was going to do an employee transfer. Then he got some buyers that came to him. Then one pulled his offer and another one came in, another one came back. But they're basically just playing him because he doesn't understand how these processes work. Another reason why they do is lack of negotiating skills. We get lulled by the big numbers. Okay. When you start seeing seven figures, all right, it can get really appealing, but we don't really understand how to negotiate properly. Actually, I was mentioning about my friend Laura Gay, the M&A person. Laura was a shop owner. Okay. And she had decided to sell her 2 shops. And the reason she got into M&A, she realized the money that she left on the table. She negotiated herself. She left a lot of money. She could have got more on an asking price. She paid a lot in taxes, okay, because the deal wasn't structured. And actually, the reason she got into M&A was to help shop owners not make the same mistakes. And so again, having somebody to kind of hold your hand with the negotiating aspect of it, I think is really important. Another reason, the 6th reason, is really insufficient succession planning. If you're looking at an internal sale, have you prepared your key employees and family members to take over? Or if you're going to sell third party, have you looked at how you're going to kind of transition out of the business and what you're going to do after that? So again, you need to develop leadership plans because again, let's say you're going to sell third party or even to a family member. As soon as employees get a word of that, there can be panic out there and you can lose some key employees, which then again can affect the business and also drive down the value of it. And especially in a family or internal transfer, a loss of key employees can be detrimental to the business. The 7th reason is, again, unrealistic time frame. So again, you can't rush this process. I've got a client I'm working with right now, and they want to do an internal transfer to the sons. Dad wants to kind of ride off into the sunset, but he wants it done now. And I keep telling him, like, it's funny. I go through the kind of my first phase of the process, which puts together the plan of action. And he's like, why are we doing this stuff? And I said, you have to trust me on this. We're building blocks to get to that final plan. But again, you can't have unrealistic timeframes for these things. Again, we've got to see, do you have enough value in the business to get out of it and to live the lifestyle that you want? That's a real key thing. And that's why I always tie, business value and financial planning together, because really, if you're looking at a liquidity event, you need to make sure that you have enough value in the business and also in your personal assets. And if you don't, give yourself time to build that value. Okay. One client was actually, I remember we went through and they got a valuation on the business and I showed them there's a gap. and you're not going to live the lifestyle. I mean, you can live a good lifestyle, but you're not going to live the lifestyle that you want. And they didn't want to give up anything. And I said, well, then what we need to do is we need to build value in the business so that we can get a better asking price and also increase the cash flow that can help you to fund personal assets to close that gap and just make it zero there. And then the last reason why they fail is just a weak post-exit planning. And I've talked about this a lot of times. I just talked about the one owner I talked who was lost. That's, I think, a key part. There's an organization called the Exit Planning Institute. Every year they do a survey, and every year the numbers come in the same. 75% of business owners that leave their business regret it after the first year. And the reason they do that is because they've never planned for what their post-shop or post-business life looks like. And so it's really important to define that. And I always say, again, to plan an exit, it's like putting a puzzle together. You got to know the pieces to put together, but if you don't see the picture on the box, you're going to be screwed, basically, is how I don't want to say that. So I think to ensure a successful exit, you want to work with professionals. I'm a certified exit planner. I help to coordinate the plan and then to bring in the team members to be able to help you to achieve the post-shop life that you want. Starting early. I can't tell you how many shop owners come to me and like, I need to get out now. Start 3 to 10 years out. Okay. So we can start building the value to be able to get the post exit life that you want. Creating a plan. I think, again, we need clean financial records. We need clear succession plans. It's amazing. I've had owners that have come to me, like, I don't have any family members. I don't have any key employees that want to take it. I just want to sell third party. But as I start taking them through the process, they start to understand, yes, my name on the building is important. Oh, yes. You know what? I like the culture I built with my employees. You know what? I like the business. I just don't want to be putting 40, 50, 60 hours a week into it. If I could just be able to come in, kind of do a team meeting, look at stuff, and then get out and get on the golf course or ride my jet ski or, ride my motorcycle or, golf or whatever it is that they like, they're like that. And so then we start building a shop that becomes more of an incidental or absentee ownership. So again, having a plan to do that helps you to achieve what you want. Maximizing the business value. Again, if there's a gap, let's give us some time to be able to build the value in the business so we can have the post-sale proceeds to be able to do that. And then finally, gain peace of mind. I think when you have a plan, it really allows you to have the peace of mind to be able to live the life that you want. It's just, anytime you have a plan for something, I think it just makes your life easier. When you're just trying to sling darts and it just creates confusion in your mind. So having professionals that will guide you through the process is really important. So again, I stress to everybody, if you're thinking about a transition of your business, whether it's to your kids, whether it's to key employees, or whether you're looking at third-party sale, give us a call. All right. You can actually go to my website, highliftfinancial.com. There's a Let's Talk, schedule a Zoom meeting. I give everybody 20, 30 minutes of my time to discuss your situation, see if we can help you to get some clarity on all this and help to create a plan. And even if we can't, the one thing I promise is I'll always get you pointed in the right direction. So with that being said, let's make it a great day. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. That way, when a new episode drops, you'll get it right on your device. And if you're watching on YouTube, even if you're listening to this through Spotify, through iTunes, through Anchor, please give us a 5-star review. That way we move up the charts and we can get some of this great content to more people. So with that being said, again, thank you again for listening to Your Business, Your Life. Take care and God bless. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
All information is obtained from sources deemed reliable but not guaranteed. No tax or legal advice is given nor intended. Content provided herein or on our website should not be construed as an offer for investment advice or for securities, insurance, or other investment products. Investments involve the risk of loss and are not guaranteed. Consult a qualified legal, tax, accounting, or financial professional before implementing any investments or strategy discussed here. High Lift Financial is a DBA for DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided through Cornerstone Planning Group, LLC, an independent advisory firm registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission.